So if you've been paying attention, you know that Home Assistant has been working on Year of the Voice, and they just went through Chapter 4 of that, which now includes wake words. Yes, you can use wake words on your local devices like an ESP device or an M5Stack Atom ESP device to be able to control entities in Home Assistant. I'm going to show you the quick and easy way to do that today, primarily using their example with an M5Stack Atom Echo. That is a little development kit. It's about this size, a little small device here. We're going to use this to control Home Assistant without pushing any buttons on it. Let's get started. So before we get started on doing the actual voice stuff, let's go through a little bit of a recap here. As I mentioned, Home Assistant's doing Year of the Voice. And Chapter 1 just basically were text commands, turning on lights, opening doors. They now support 56 languages and have 188 contributors, translating common smart home commands for everyone. Chapter 2 introduced audio for the voice commands, both speech to text and text to speech. So you can do that locally for maximum privacy, as well as support for the cloud, because the cloud has more resources and it's very fast. And this is a Home Assistant cloud, not just general cloud. And then Chapter 3, they added the ability to set Home Assistant as your default assistant on Android phones and watches. I happen to have an Android watch and I have an Android phone, so that has been very useful to be able to do that. Now in Chapter 4, they have added what I mentioned before is the wake word. Wake words are obviously special words and phrases that tell a voice assistant to do something, or to be ready to do something. Of course, we all know about the ones that they have out here for our various smart speakers around the place. There is a new project called Open Wake Word by David Skripka, which I probably pronounced wrong. Project has real-world accuracy, runs on commodity hardware, and you can even train your own wake word in about an hour for free. Using Google's stuff that they have available for that. So I'm going to talk today about this $13 voice assistant. Again, what I mentioned before in the intro was that this is a little M5Stack development kit. It's just a small little board, ESP32 Pico board, that allows you to talk to it. It also has a little tiny speaker in it that allows it to give you back responses to what it has done or what it can't do. So I'll go through that here in a few minutes. There's lots of ESP projects that are going to pop up here related to this voice stuff. So just watch out for those through the various creator community and Home Assistant community. So here's some just general information. Wake words are hard. That's why it's taken to Chapter 4 to get here. They are based on AI, and there is little room for false positives. They need to be very fast. In fact, when you start talking, you want an immediate response to that. You don't want to sit here and wait for 5 seconds after saying a wake word for something to be ready to process a command. We're not used to doing that. So voice satellite hardware does not have the computing power to do that. So what Home Assistant did was they decided to process this within Home Assistant. Voice satellite devices constantly sample the current audio in your room. So again, this is considered a voice satellite when the software is installed on it. And that software is talking to Home Assistant all the time, and it will check, Home Assistant will check to see if the wake word is there and then get ready for a command. We talk about the advantages of the approach. Any device that streams audio can be turned into a voice satellite. Even if it's a little tiny Pico 32, it doesn't have enough power to do the detection itself, but it can leverage Home Assistant to do the work for it. Let's talk about a couple downsides. The first is that the quality of the audio captured differs. If you have a speakerphone that has lots of microphones, has processing chips, and can make the audio super clear, that's one thing. A device with a single processing and no post-processing, and I keep coming back to this, that's an example of what this is right here. A single microphone, single little speaker, no post-processing. It's not so much quality. And so what Home Assistant can do is compensate for this with audio post-processing actually inside Home Assistant. So you can use better text-to-speech models to improve accuracy, like that one that is in the Home Assistant cloud. Of course, the other downside is that each satellite requires ongoing resources. So right now with a Pi 4, the max you can typically run is 5 voice satellites without overwhelming that Pi 4. It's assuming all those satellites are streaming at the same time. Now they have updated the Wyoming protocol, which is something you'll need in order to use a voice pipeline anyway, to allow users to run wake word detection on an external server. So you could actually set up a whole wake word detection system outside of Home Assistant and then integrate that to Home Assistant and be able to harness more processing power. That is what we're up against now. A couple of caveats that I discovered today. First of all, you need to be running, as of this filming, you need to be running the ESP Home Beta version. It's not quite fully baked into the production version, although that's probably coming pretty soon. If you have previously used one of these devices and you have encryption on it or something. Well, that was exciting. I dropped my Atom Echo on my keyboard and stopped my recording and didn't realize it. So anyway, what I was saying is if you have one of these and you've used it before, there was a couple of caveats. It didn't follow the flow, and we're gonna go through this tutorial here that Home Assistant has set up for the M5Stack Atom Echo. And when we get down to installing the software, I ran into a small issue, which I'll go through. I think it's because I had encryption installed or something. I don't really understand fully, but I was able to make it work through a workaround. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. You need to have at least Home Assistant 2023.10. That is when this was installed. You need to either have a Home Assistant cloud or manually configured assist pipeline. And the assist pipeline is how you get this stuff to work. For example, if you were doing chapter 1 or 2 or 3, you already should have an assist pipeline with the Whisper and the Piper add-ons. And then you can also see that Wyoming gets installed because it gets picked up by these other things. So there's the whole assist pipeline. You can read through that. I'll link that down below in the video, and you can read through that if you need to install it. We're going to assume you have it installed. Obviously, you need the password for your network. That goes without saying, because these little devices, at least for this device here, you're going to use this on Wi-Fi, and then you can take it around your house and put it wherever you want to. You need Chrome or a Chromium-based browser like Edge on a desktop, not on any tablet or phone. That won't work. You need this board, the development kit, and you need a USB-C cable to connect the Atom Echo to your PC. All right, so installing the Open Wake Word add-on. So we can go into Home Assistant. We can go into our add-ons, or add-on store, and you want to install the Open Wake Word add-on. And you can see that right here. It looks like I have an update for this already. If you don't have it installed, you just go to Settings, Add-ons, Open Wake Word, and install it. And then you start the add-on, which is already installed here for me, and I've already started it. So that's all good to go. Under Discovered, you should see now the open integration. So if you go back over here to integrations, you will see a thing pop up here at the top left saying that you it has discovered the Open Wake Word integration, and you need to go ahead and install that. Once you do everything with that, then you'll have it installed. Now you need to add a wake word to your voice assistant. So we want to go over to settings. So I'm just going to go to settings here, my cheat, and I'm going to go down here to voice assistants. And now you can either create an assistant or use one that you already have. If you want to add one, you can go through and do all of this. You give it a name. So if I wanted to use this name called OK Nabu, which is the name of the wake word I'm using. She's talking back to me because I said that word. And then I want to use the conversation agent Home Assistant, and I want the language to be English for both speech to text and text to speech. You can either use the Home Assistant Cloud or Piper or something else, Faster Whisper. This is all local. So if you want to do local here, you can do this. If you want to do the Home Assistant Cloud, you would just choose Home Assistant Cloud for both of these. And then you could choose a voice. There are dozens of voices here you can use. And then you can use the wake word engine, open wake word, and you can choose from these that are already built in. So you've got the standard Amazon one, some of these other ones, Mycroft, Raspy, and then the one that we're going to use today is called OK Nabu, which she is hearing me say that every time now. Whoops. Understand that. Yeah, so she can't understand it. Anyway, if you don't give her a word, she doesn't do anything. All right, so you can create that. I'm just going to modify the one I have or just show you the one I have. I've got Home Assistant Cloud set up as my my pipeline right now. So the name is Cloud. I give it that, Home Assistant Cloud. English, English, English. My conversation agent is Home Assistant. My speech to text is Home Assistant Cloud. My text to speech is Home Assistant Cloud. I've chosen Sarah Neural as my voice that I want it to talk to me in. And then, of course, I'm using open wake word, and I'm using this wake word that we just talked about. If you change anything here, click the update button, and then it'll do that. All right, so that's easy enough to do. If you don't see that stuff there, you need to set up Cloud or a manually configured pipeline again. The link for that's down below if you don't have a pipeline already. It's fairly simple. We talked about all these things right here. For the first run, Home Assistant recommends that you use OK Nabu just to test it because that particular wake word has been tested, and that wake word has been tested, and it has been it's got a pretty robust model, so it'll hear a lot better. All right, so now this is the part where we want to install the Atom onto, or the software onto the Atom Echo. Now, I've already done this once or twice or maybe a dozen times, but I'm going to do it again to show you how the process works. Make sure this page, the one we're looking at here, is open in a Chromium-based browser. If it is not, you will not see this button right here, but you will see some text that says this is not a supported browser. So make sure you have this button here. You can also install this whole Atom Echo, go over to GitHub. You can take this particular configuration file, and you can put it in your either in your Nabu Casa directory, in your ESP home directory, or you can just paste it into the Atom Echo configuration once you've installed the basic configuration on the device. We're going to go ahead and go through the connect thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. But before I do that, because it's going to take over my browser here, we're going to get a pop-up window, and I'm going to go through all these things here. And that way you can see what happens. So connect is the first step here. Since it's plugged into my computer, I see it under COM5. If I were to unplug it from my computer, I would not see that port. So if you're not sure which port it is, unplug it, open this window, and then plug it in, and it should show you a new port. And that's the port the thing is plugged into. So click on connect. We will hang out here. So you have two options: install voice assistant, logs, and console. I'm going to install the voice assistant. Do I want to install 2023 10.0 beta 1? Everything on the Atom Echo will be erased. The answer is yes. I'm going to install it. This takes a bit of time. So we will wait for this to go through. It's got to erase it. It's got to compile it up, and then it's got to install it. It says 2 minutes. It might take a little bit longer than that. We'll see here. And when you see this installation complete, it is good to go. Now, there's going to be another step, couple steps. First is configuring your Wi-Fi. I think that's my neighbor's bathroom speaker. I don't know what these things are. And choose one of your networks, or your network, your Wi-Fi network, connect to it. And then it's going to configure the Wi-Fi on the device and try to connect to it. This will be step number 2, and there's a few other follow-on steps as well. All right, it comes back and says the device has been connected to the network. Now I want to do is add this to Home Assistant. And what this is going to do is take you to a page here. I'm going to click on the open link page if it takes you to your local instance. So click on open link. And it says, do you want to set up ESP Home? This is where I started to diverge from the document because I started to see some issues. I'm going to say yes. And it's asking me for this. Now, on this video, I'm not going to try to solve this problem. I'm just going to X out of this right now. So I don't have any devices showing up. So I'm going to go over to my ESP Home under add-ons, ESP Home. And sometimes you can also get it in the sidebar. And this again is the beta version. I'm going to open the web UI. If I should see something like this where it says it's discovered a new device, I'm going to adopt that device. And you can give it whatever name you want. I'm just going to leave it as the default name. Oops. Click on adopt. And now it's going to give me an encryption key. And I'm going to copy that encryption key. You're going to need that in a minute because of this weirdness. I'm going to click on install. It's going to go through this whole setup here. It's going to install the voice stuff on here. It's going to download, compile everything else. This does take a few minutes to install. And once it does that, then we're going to go back over to our integrations and we're going to see that it shows up as a discovered device and we're going to be able to connect it to Home Assistant so that we can start using it. So let's let this go through its business here and then we'll be back in just a minute. All right, we uploaded now. You can see that here. Over the air successful, uploaded program, starting log output from this. And now we're going to see that we're connecting to our network. So now what I want to do is stop this over here. Click this stop button over here. Now I'm going to go back over to my integrations page. Now you copied that encryption key just a minute ago. So you're going to want to use that. So this might pop up if you've used this before. It says reconfigure. If you had to do what I just did, it's likely that you've used this Echo 3 or this Atom Echo before, and it's trying to reconfigure with a new encryption key. So I'm going to submit that. And once reauthentication is successful, now your device can actually connect to Home Assistant through ESP Home, and you should start being able to use the wake word. So we're going to try it now. All right, let's see this thing work. You'll see a color change on here whenever this happens. Should go from this color to a kind of a blue when it's thinking. Okay, Nabu. Turn on guest lamp. And that's obviously not working because I don't have that exposed. Let's try a different one. Okay, Nabu. Turn on game room. And as it's talking, you'll see it flash. And when it's ready to receive the next command, it'll go back to this kind of pinkish purple color. Okay, yeah. And let me just show you here. You can see that the game room light is now on. So I will tell it again. You can watch it here. Okay, Nabu. Turn off game room. And you can see how quickly that responds. And one more time over here. Okay, Nabu. Turn on game room. You see it's on here. Okay, Nabu. Turn off game room. And you can see how quickly that is. So there you go. You have now voice control from a little ESP32 Pico board, Pico 32 board. So all the processing is on the Home Assistant side. It's very, very fast. Disclaimer, I'm using the Home Assistant Cloud for mine. But you can do it locally with Piper, Whisper, and some of those. You can try to do it on, if you've got decent hardware, it'll be fast on decent hardware. You can keep it completely local without using any cloud at all. Let me point out a couple of more things that we talk about here. Obviously, these are built-in wake words. And then there's a discussion about why they're using open wake word. So you can create your own wake word as well. This is what makes it interesting. You can fine-tune the model. You can do this through a Google Colab notebook created by David. And it's got the wake word model. You just put your word in it, and an hour later, you get your own wake word using the free computing available to all of the Google Colab users. And there's a guide for that. I may make a video on that later on if you'd like me to do that. I may play around with it and see what I can come up with. The models generated with the notebook will perform reasonably well. They will not perform as well as ones bundled with Home Assistant because they have not received, the Home Assistant ones received a lot of extensive training. There's other wake word engines. In Home Assistant, they ship the defaults, but you allow us to configure what we want. Wake word engines can integrate to Home Assistant by adding them as an integration or run them as a standalone program that communicates. So like I mentioned before, you can run Wyoming on something else that allows you to keep it local and get the benefit of a better CPU or processing power. Here's an example. They're making the Porcupine wake word engine available. It supports 29 wake words across all of these different languages. And then they're also doing other things where they are repurposing or using different ways to create these voice satellites. Since our satellite is only responsible for capturing audio, you might have stuff sitting around that you can use as a voice satellite. We had great results in our testing with the Anker PowerComp S330, which is this particular device right here. So it looks like a little speakerphone you can set on your desk. That's available to you. Some USB speakerphones require a powered hub because of power limits on the port. So if you're going to plug something directly into your Raspberry Pi, make sure it can power it. You can turn Home Assistant into a voice satellite. You need to plug a USB microphone or speakerphone and configure the Assist microphone add-on. All of this is available. You can turn any ESP32 into a voice satellite as well. More stuff there. Just lots and lots of examples here. So what are they going to do next? They want to work towards supporting the most common tasks. So support for multiple shopping list timers, weather forecasts. Wake word allows further fine-tuning of the model with recordings made by users via their own voice satellite. On the voice satellite side, we're going to integrate more advanced audio processing to improve the wake word and speech-to-text accuracy. They're going to do another attempt to getting wake words running inside ESP Home directly. So these improvements will require more advanced hardware. So they're looking at this ESP S3 Box 3. I tried to get one of those and they're hard to get right now. So they used to do this S3 box, and they're saying now Espressif says it'll be back in stock soon. If you already have one of these variants, you can install the ESP Home configuration and receive these updates as they become available. All right, that's it. A little quick look at the new wake word stuff in Year of the Voice Chapter 4 in Home Assistant. It's going to be fun to play with. It's going to continue to evolve, and I'm really excited to see what else they're going to do with that. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know what they come up with, and I'll bring you all the news and highlights and, to the best of my ability, examples on how to use and set up this stuff. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoy my content, please make sure that you subscribe down below so you know when I make the new stuff, and we'll see you on the next video.